This presentation focuses on the impression procedure with the synOcta prosthetic system. There are two options for taking an impression with the synOcta prosthetic system on Straumann soft tissue level implants. One is the screwed open tray technique, and the other is the snap-on closed tray technique. The impression components feature a color-coded system: red for the regular neck implants, and gray for the implants featuring the wide neck. To restore implants with synOcta abutments, an impression first is taken using the different impression components. Snap-on impressions are taken with impression caps and positioning cylinders. Screw-retained impressions are made using screw-retained impression posts. The impression-taking procedures are identical for the 4.8 mm diameter regular neck implant shoulder and for the 6.5 mm diameter wide neck implant shoulder. In both cases, the plastic components should be for single use only. Therefore, they do not need to be sterilized. To avoid damage to them through loss of elasticity or embrittlement, they should be kept away from strong light and heat. Both the implant shoulder and the internal implant configuration must be cleaned of blood and tissue before the impression is undertaken. The closed tray impression-taking procedure begins with the impression cap being pushed onto the implant shoulder until it clicks into place. Then the cap is gently turned to ensure that it's in the correct position. The octagon of the synOcta positioning cylinder must be properly aligned with the octagon in the implant. It's pushed into the impression cap as far as it will go. An elastomeric impression material, like polyvinyl siloxane or polyether rubber, is appropriate for making the impression. Due to its low tensile strength, hydrocolloid is not suitable. The open tray impression-taking procedure is identical for the regular neck implant shoulder and the wide neck shoulder. This procedure requires a perforated tray. These impression posts are also intended for single use only. As with the closed tray impression procedure, the implant shoulder and the internal configuration must first be cleaned. The impression procedure is begun by placing the synOcta impression post onto the implant shoulder. Accurate positioning of the octagon in the implant is important before the screw is tightened, either by hand or with the SCS screwdriver. The tray for this procedure has one or several openings. It's through these openings that the impression posts are unscrewed from the implant in order to remove the impression from the patient's mouth. Then the guide screw is loosened, and the impression is removed. For master cast fabrication, the implant analog, following the color-coded system, is screwed onto the impression post by hand or pushed onto the impression cap.